Some people cry when they discover betrayal. Some people scream. Some people just stand frozen in the middle of the kitchen, holding the pan they were washing. I did none of those things. When I read something I was never supposed to read on Lucas's phone at 11 in the morning on a Tuesday while he was in the shower, I felt something very specific. Clarity. Not pain yet. Not anger yet. Clarity. Everything that had felt foggy over the last few months. The absences. The strange behavior. The quiet feeling that I had been sleeping next to a stranger. Suddenly had shape. It had logic. It had a name. I placed the phone back on the table. I walked to the kitchen. I made more coffee. When he came out of the bathroom and asked if there was any coffee left, I said yes. It was still hot, and asked if he wanted some bread. He wanted bread. And while I was putting the bread in the toaster, I made a decision that would change the next 30 days of my life. I wasn't going to say anything yet. I was going to wait. And I was going to use that time very well. What surprised me the most was how normal everything suddenly felt. Not because things were actually normal, they weren't. But because once you know the truth, you start seeing everything differently. Every message notification, every late meeting, every strange excuse. Before that morning, those things had been confusing. After that morning, they were evidence. That same day, Lucas kissed me goodbye before leaving for work, just like he always did. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel confused. I knew. That certainty changes something inside you. You stop asking questions. You start paying attention. The first night after I discovered everything, I lay in bed next to him, staring at the ceiling in the dark. Lucas fell asleep in less than 5 minutes. He always had that ability, the kind of sleep that comes instantly, like the day never left a mark. I remember listening to his breathing and thinking about how strange it was that someone could sleep so peacefully while living inside a lie. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I didn't even feel angry yet. I just started planning. And planning, I would soon discover, is a very quiet kind of revenge. Staying quiet when you know everything is the hardest and most powerful thing there is. It's hard because every time you look at him, you know. And he doesn't know that you know. There's a huge temptation to throw the truth in his face, to see the look on his face, to end the performance immediately. But it's powerful because while you stay quiet, you're working. And he's sleeping. Lucas was a minority partner in an event company. Part of the money circulating there passed through a joint account we had opened to make wedding payments easier. During the first 3 days after I found out, I did nothing but observe. I made a list. I listed everything that was mine, everything that was his, and everything that belonged to both of us. I went to the bank and spoke with a manager about the procedures for closing a joint account. Then I went to a law office and scheduled a consultation with a lawyer specialized in family law. I brought the list. The lawyer looked at me and asked, "Are you sure about what you want to do?" I said, "I'm sure about what's already been done. Now I want to know the cleanest way to leave this with what belongs to me." She smiled in a way I recognized. It was the smile of someone who had heard many stories like mine. On the 10th day, I discovered that the betrayal was only the top layer. Looking through documents I had legitimate access to, joint account statements and invoices saved in our shared email, I found things that had nothing to do with an affair. They had to do with money. Lucas had used $11, $400 from the joint account in 6 months. I tracked $4, $200 of that as expenses with the other woman. The remaining $7, $200 went to an account I didn't recognize. I took everything to the lawyer. She raised one eyebrow. "This isn't just betrayal," she said. "This is misuse of funds from a joint account. That's another legal case." I asked, "Can I file both at the same time?" She said I could. I kept making coffee every morning. I kept confirming wedding vendors. I kept sleeping on the same side of the bed. And on the 15th day, I called Lucas's majority partner. A man named Ayrton, whom I had met only twice at dinner, but who seemed like a man of his word, and asked for a discreet conversation. Ayrton stayed silent for about 15 seconds after I finished explaining everything. Then he said, "I needed to know this." On the 28th day, I was ready. The lawyer had the documents organized for both legal actions. Ayrton had his own documents ready for an internal audit that had already started without Lucas knowing. My mother had a room ready for me. On the 29th day, while Lucas was at a work dinner, and I know exactly what that dinner really was, I packed 2 suitcases, I called an Uber, and I left. On the morning of the 30th day, Lucas woke up alone in the apartment, not understanding what had happened. At 9 in the morning, he received notification of 2 lawsuits. At 11, Ayrton called him in for an emergency meeting about the audit. At 2 in the afternoon, he was temporarily removed from the partnership. I knew all of this because Ayrton sent me a message, out of courtesy. He said I deserved to know. I was having lunch with my mother when my phone vibrated. I finished lunch before reading it. Lucas tried to contact me in every possible way. Calls, messages, emails, messages through his sister, even a physical letter he sent to my mother's house. I kept everything. The lawyer asked me to. The case about the joint account misuse was concluded in 6 months. I received back everything that had been documented, plus corrections and legal costs. The moral damages case is still ongoing. The partnership with Ayrton was dissolved. Lucas now works as an employee in a completely different field. I rented my own apartment with a huge window facing a small square. I grow herbs on the windowsill. I have a Saturday routine that includes slow coffee, reading, and absolutely no obligations. Sometimes people ask if I regret waiting 30 days instead of confronting him immediately. I don't regret it. Confronting him right away would have been honest, but it would have left me with nothing except moral righteousness. Waiting gave me time to understand what was really happening. It gave me time to consult people who knew what they were doing. It gave me time to act with a cool head. And it allowed me to leave that situation not only with my dignity intact, but with what was mine returned to me. Sometimes the right answer isn't the fastest one. Sometimes it's the one you plan calmly while making coffee for the man who doesn't deserve it. There's no easy lesson here. I won't say, always trust your instincts, because for months I trusted the instinct that told me I was exaggerating. I won't say all men cheat, because that isn't true, and it helps no one. What I will say is this: when you discover you've been deceived, and I sincerely hope you never do, you don't have to react immediately. You don't owe anyone an instant reaction. You don't have a deadline. You can breathe. You can call a lawyer. You can make coffee. And you can choose the timing of your response. The power of knowing and not reacting immediately is enormous. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely. But it's power. And when your response finally comes, whenever your time is, it will be precise. This story is for you. If you're sitting on a park bench right now, staring at the lake, trying to understand what just happened, you have more time than you think. Use it well.